Okay, so this video is about quadratic transformations. So I'm going to give you parabolas, I'll give you equations, and you're going to describe how that parabola or equation relates to the function y equals or f of x equals x squared. This is called the parent function that all quadratics are related to. After you decide the transformation of left, right, up, down, stretch or compression, then you'll write the equation for the function. So in the very first example, zoom this in a bit. If I want to write that equation, how it relates, we're going to write it in the vertex form of a parabola. And the vertex form looks like this. Y equals a, x subtract h squared plus k. So, or f of x equals, either way. It could be y equals f of x, or f of x equals. If I'm going to write that transformation, I need to know what a is, what h is, and what k is. H and k is the vertex, so it's a coordinate for the vertex. So it's how far I go over is the h value, and how far I go down is the k value. So this direction over is the h value. And the direction you go down is your k value. So as I look at that, I went over to the left for this problem. Here's I went over to the left 4. So I know h is left 4, so negative 4. The k value, I went down 2 spaces. So I'm down at y to be negative 2. So no k is negative 2. And the last thing is the a value. The a value is if you go to the right 1 space or go to the left 1 space, it's how far you rise upwards from the vertex. Since I went to the right 1, I rose upwards from the vertex 1 space to touch the graph again. I know my a value. I know a equals to 1. I'll put it up here. A is 1. So I know a, I know k, and I know a, h, and k. So I can write the equation. Now y equals to 1x take away negative 4 squared plus negative 2. Truth be told, I really wouldn't write negative. A mature algebra student would call that positive. And I wouldn't say plus and negative anymore. I'll call that subtraction. So this equation is y equals 1x plus 4 subtract 2. It says describe the transformations. So in words, you describe this as shift left 4 down 2 units. And that's the transformation happening in that problem. Look at a new one, the one next to it here. So again, if we start here, h and k is how far you move left or right from the origin. And I moved the vertex to the right 2 units, but I didn't go up or down. So no h is 2 because I went to the right. I know k is 0 because I did not go up or down. And then I need a. And a is if you go over 1 unit to the right and you go down and touch the graph, is how far you went to touch the graph. So I went down and it looks to be a half. And since I went down, I'm saying negative 1/2. So that's a negative 1/2 for the a value. So this equation is y equals to a x subtract h squared plus k. So it's y equals to negative 1/2 x subtract 2 squared plus 0. You could also see that written as y equals negative 1/2 x subtract 2 squared. You don't always see the plus 0 added. You don't always see the plus 0 added to the end because you don't have to. So either one of those are just as fine. All right, and it says describe translations. So I can say it shifts right 2 units. And I didn't go up or down 0, so I don't have to describe that. But I did have a compression. What I mean by compression is, since the a value is a decimal that's smaller than 1, I know the graph is compressed. So it's compression by 1/2. It's compressed. Compressed means it's a wider graph, or this is a wider graph. So it's a compression by 1/2. And because A is negative, it reflects over the x-axis. So I'm going to say it's compressed by 1/2 and reflects over the x-axis. Whenever you see reflects over the x-axis, that always means that the A value was a negative number. Whenever you see that, that means the original graph, what it would look like this, has now been flipped over the x-axis. Anytime you see that, that means the A value is a negative number. All right, let's try a new one. All right, so looking at this one, if I want to describe the transformation, the original graph would be here, so I need to find H and K. Again, how you find that is, you start at the origin and you go over and touch the graph's vertex. So I don't go over left, right, but I do go down. I went down 6. So I didn't go over left and right, so H is 0. I went down 6, so K is -6. My A value is, if I start my vertex and go over it, then touch the graph, I went up 1. So that means A is 1. So that equation would be y equals to 1 x subtract 0 squared subtract 6, or plus a -6. And you'll probably see it written this way. Y equals to x subtract 0 just means x squared subtract 6. This is true, and this is just as true. Either way, it's the same equation. And the translation is shifts down 6. All right, one more just like that one. Take a look at it. Pause the video and see if you can decide what A, H, and K is. So pause the video and see if you can figure out that on your own. I hopefully gave it a shot. And now A, H, and K. So again, H and K, you start at the origin and you decide how far you go over and down to get to the vertex. So it looks like I went over -3. So H is -3. I went down, it looks to be at 5. So we're down -5. So K is at -5. The A value, if I start at the vertex and go over it and then go upwards to touch the graph, I went up 2. So no, A is 2. So this equation would be A and then x subtract H squared plus K. This equation would be y equals to 2x. Because it's negative, if you subtract a negative, I'm going to call it plus. And since that's a negative, that K was negative, that's going to be subtract 5. And that's the equation for that graph. It is it's a shift left 3, shift left 3, down 5, and because A is 2, that is a vertical stretch. It makes a narrower graph, like the graph is skinnier. So this is a vertical stretch of 2. So that's what that means. If A was 1, it'd be a wider graph. If A was a decimal between 0 and 1, it'd be even wider graph. But the bigger the A value is, the narrower the graph gets. I can prove it using decimals, but that's what it means. All right, go on here. It says graph the function given information. So I need A, H, and K to graph it. A is the number in front of parentheses, and there's no number there, so it's an understood 1 here. So A is 1. H is 0. K is 3. So I graph that function. I know I should shift no place left or right, but up 3. So I'm going to go up 3. 1, 2, 3. And that's the vertex. Since A is 1, I'm going to go over 1 and up 1, over 1, then up 1. And truthfully, that's enough points to know the general shape of that parabola. Looks something like that. I can use more points, but that's good enough. I'm going to number 12. Looking at this, I know A again is 1. H is, in this case, because it says plus 4, I know H must have been a negative, because you get the opposite of that sign, basically. So if that says plus 4 in parentheses, it's subtract 4 here. Basically, because the formula has subtraction, it'd be subtract the negative, and that's why it gets the opposite sign. K equals a 0. So that means I go left 4, down or up 0, and A is 1. So from this graph, I go left 1, 2, 3, 4. And I go down, up 0. And since A is 1, I go over 1 and up 1, over 1 and up 1. I got these 3 points. That's a pretty safe graph. The last one is this. These direction says write the equation of the function given the description of the transformation. Right. So if I'm going to write that equation, I'm going to decide what A, H, and K is, so I can start writing it. They said it was a vertical stretch of 4, so I know I have A is 4. That tells you it's a vertical stretch of 4. Anytime I say vertical stretch or compression, that's referring to what A is. It says translates left 6, so I know that H is negative 6. It didn't say whether or not it goes up or down, so I know that's 0. So that equation would be y equals A, x subtract h squared plus k. So that would be y equals to 4, x plus 6 squared plus 0. In the next one, it says that you got a vertical compression of 1/2, so no A is 1/2. It reflects over the x-axis, so no A is negative as well. So you got 2 things they told you about A. And the last part says it translates up 4 units. So that's K. K is 4. H they didn't tell you anything about, so it's 0. This equation would be y equals to negative 1/2 x subtract 0 squared plus 4. And you can simplify that if you want. Here's one last one. And this is this problem. This is vertical stretch of 6, reflection of the x-axis, and a translation right 4. So I know the vertical stretch means A is 6. The reflection over x-axis means A is negative. Translate to the right means H is 5. And K must be 0 because there's no up or down movement. So the equation should be y equals to negative 6, x subtract 5 squared plus 0. All right, anyway, that's all I have. Good luck.